Welcome to the Fierce and Fit Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Clarice Yao, a holistic health coach dedicated to helping women over 40 achieve their fittest, fiercest selves. Each week, we'll dive deep into the unique challenges of menopause, including belly fat, weight gain, muscle building, hormonal imbalances, and more. These episodes are recorded live from my free Facebook group, Fierce Women Sculpting Powerful Bodies and Champion Mindsets. Be sure to check the link in the show notes to join our incredible community and access free content, challenges, and resources designed just for you. This is live number 81. Welcome to the Fierce Woman community where we sculpt powerful bodies and champion mindsets. Let's jump into the top 10 myths that we want to bust. Now, some of them maybe you guys already know, some of you may not know, but it's always good to review. And there's also a saying, one of my recent mentors said this, to know and not do equals to not to know. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. You know, you may know something, but you don't do it or don't apply it. And it's still, you don't know. So you got to make sure that what you know, you apply, right? Okay, so top 10 myth, number 1. They're not in any particular order, just so you know, they're just 10 things that I want to talk about, okay? So the first thing is stretching before a workout is not good. So there's a lot of talks and a lot of, fitness gurus that may say, like, don't stretch before you work out, or people are confused. Should you stretch? Should you not? And the answer is not that simple. I think that's why people get into so much trouble. It's like, I think we always have this binary way of thinking of like, it has to be either or. Cheryl Hoskins, we were just talking about this because I coach her in another area, and she's like, what's this either or mentality, And I was saying to her, it doesn't always have to be like you stretch or you don't stretch, It all depends on context. So I'll give you a little bit of reasoning why sometimes these experts will say you shouldn't stretch so much before you work out, especially a strength workout, and if you want to get maximal strength gains. The logic behind that is if you stretch and overstretch your tendons and sort of like the muscle fibers, you'll lose your tensile strength within your lifting session. And now, how true is that? I'm going to tell you, it depends on what you're doing. Now, if you are like a dancer, I'm going to give you an example because Clarice is a dancer, and I remember doing a PNF stretching, partner-based stretching, where my legs were being pushed up against the wall. Those of you who are dancers know this. And you're trying to gain your flexibility, and they're stretching your legs right up to the wall. And it's painful, especially trying to get the full tilt. And I remember coming out of that stretch because it was like a 20-minute session or something like that. And I was like, oh, I can't walk normally right now. I can't walk normally, like your legs feel like noodles, right? Like, because you've been so stretched and almost like overstretched. And this was to teach, for dancers, for us, that we can raise our legs straight up, all of this type of stuff. So if you're stretching to that kind of capacity, yeah, that may affect your lifting session for sure, right? So nobody's telling you to do that type of stretching. If you do just a gentle kind of a short warm-up stretch, you should be fine. It's not like a horrible thing. Now, there is some more context behind this as well. So really the answer is actually more what type of stretching is best before a workout. That's probably a better question than just should I stretch or should I not stretch, right? And as I mentioned in one of my lives before, dynamic stretching is the most important before a workout. So dynamic stretching is where you mobilize the joints. It's more about mobility, which is the movement within the joint, your joint sockets, whereas flexibility is just stretching your muscles, right? So I've talked about this before, where mobility is important because you need to be able to move your joints through full range of motion in your workout. So you want to do dynamic stretching more at the beginning of a workout. And if you had some static, some tiny bit, you're fine too, gentle static. And then you want to have more static stretching near the end of your workout when you're done all your workout. However, again, you're not gonna be like totally like take away all your gains if you don't stretch, or if you static stretch at the beginning as well. Like I do a static stretch before my chest workout, which is the chest one, because if I'm really, really tight, I find I cannot get my range. So having some minor static stretching is still good. So there's a bit of a myth of like, don't stretch, you'll lose all your strength, you won't be gaining your muscle if you stretch isn't necessarily true. And just make sure you emphasize more dynamic stretching on that, okay? So how many of you guys stretch before you work out? Do you stretch? Maybe put it below. How many of you guys stretch? So that's the first myth, is you probably should stretch, just to clarify, right? We should stretch, but the type of stretching is important, okay? So, okay, the myth number 2 is, this one says you have to make sure you eat before you work out and make sure you have a protein right after your workout. So this is a popular one, because I get asked all the time, oh my gosh, okay, what should I eat before workout? What should I eat after workout? Context is really important. So when someone says, okay, well, tell me what to eat before, what to eat after, do I have to eat before, all of that? Well, my answer to you is it depends what's your workout. If you are a marathon runner who's going to go work out run 25K, well, yeah, you better fuel up before you will hit a wall, right? You better fuel up. But it depends, like some people may be doing a quick hit workout, like maybe they're doing 20-minute hit workout or a 30-minute hit workout. If you're doing a shorter workout, you don't really have to eat right before you go work out. It really isn't that important if you have enough nutrients from earlier in the day. The meal you ate is enough nutrients to last you through. In terms of this specific, is it like if you didn't eat before you went work out, you might be thinking, oh, but then I'm not going to get my gains. Or if I don't get my protein right after, I'm not going to get my gains. And here is more the truth. The truth is, and I said this in one of my very, very early lives called nutrient timing. Okay, so the truth is, you want to focus less on pre and post workout snacks and things that you want to eat before and after. And I want you to focus more on overall in your day. Do you have enough protein, carbs, and fat? It actually matters more your totality of nutrients than just what you eat before and after, okay? And this is really important because like a lot of times, like people, if they're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna eat this protein or whatever, protein before and protein after, but overall they're short on protein in their day, which a lot of women are, you still don't have enough protein in your body. So it actually isn't so much about the timing of it. If we were talking about a very elite athlete who has all the right nutrients, all the right macros and balances and all of that, and there's some final tweaks we want to do, nutrient timing matters more later. But when they're talking about a general person just working out and they're like, can I have something right before or right after? Again, it depends. If you didn't eat all day and you have not like no energy, well, yeah, eat before you go work out because you need energy. But do you see what I'm saying? The focus isn't about what exactly is so important right before my workout and right after my workout. It's actually totality of macros. Okay, so in terms of the timing of the food, so in terms of like, should you have a snack right before and right after, my other thought process is a lot of people, they think as long as I have like my protein before a workout or protein afterwards, they're often relying on protein bars and protein shakes, which I have a lot to say about those types of things, as now all my clients in Transformation FFF know they cause massive inflammation. There's a lot of stuff in those types of bars, and you actually do yourself a detriment by eating that, because you create more inflammation in your body and you get less gain in your body. So again, I'm going to go back to the truth of the matter is that question isn't about what should I eat before and what I should eat after. It should be, do I get enough total macros in my body in my entire day in the meals that I eat throughout? And if so happens that you split your meals before you work out, because just the timing of it, let's just say you go work out at 4 p.m. and then you get home by 7, and your timing of your eating and your meals are just around the time frame of your workout, that's fine, but that's just your natural division of your meals. Does that make sense? Hopefully that's making sense to you. So if any one of you have fallen into that trap, I'd like you to put below where you're like, I'm so focused on I have to get like my shake here before my workout or my shake here after my workout. So put it below because I like to know who believe that myth. Number 3, so longer workouts are more meaningful, or like are better, I guess. So that's another myth. Some of you may already know this, but longer doesn't necessarily mean better. It's what you do in the time, right? It's what you do in the time. So if you work out too long, it's not just about being longer at the gym and whatnot. Obviously, you might overuse or overstrain yourself if you go for too long. It's not about how long it is. But I also want to kind of address it from the other side, because I've been in this industry for a long time. And sometimes people are like, okay, if you're not in and out of the gym in 40 minutes, you're doing too much, you're taking away all your gains. And then it's also the other side. You'll notice I don't really like to lean extremes. I feel like extremes are really bad, like a really bad way of thinking, because it really confuses people. The guy who said this does HIIT training and does HIIT training in and out of the gym, 20, 30 minutes, got it done, awesome. But you may not be doing HIIT training. So you got to consider context to it. So I'm going to give you another example. Power lifters typically lift a big lifts, big squats, deadlifts, that type of thing. And they're always looking for 1 max reps. So they may be training like max 4, 3, or 2 reps to get their highest lifts, right? So you think about someone who trains that, they're still going to spend time, don't get me wrong. But then that we look at a bodybuilder's workout and training, and they might need to hit into a higher rep range, maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20, depends on your coach. My coach sometimes gives me 25. I mean, it depends on your coach. It depends on what rep range is needed for your body for the specific purpose of sculpting. And in bodybuilding, there's a lot don't get me wrong, you have compound movements, but there's more isolation moves. So you may be doing, let's just say, 1-legged deadlifts or lunges, and you have to do one side, then you got to do the other side. Am I correct? FFF ladies, transformation clients, muscle accelerators, you're like, yep, you might have to do one side, then do the other side. So naturally, that's going to take a little bit longer. Does that mean your workout is not good because you spent longer in the gym? No. But also on the other side, it's not about spending like so much time and that makes you so great. It's it's less about the time and more about how effective is your program. How effective is your program, right? So that's the most important part of it is your program delivering the result of what you're trying to strive for? If you have a bodybuilding program that needs a little bit more time, that's awesome. That's great. But, if you're someone who does 40 minutes, it doesn't mean that she's doing a less good job. Maybe she has a different program. Ultimately, though, it comes down to how your program is effective. So I'll say that again. Let's just say, I'm just going to use an example because I know a lot of women like working their glutes, and they work their entire workout around just their glutes. And that just depends. Like if they just work their glutes, that's good, but it's not effective in terms of building their overall sculpting of the rest of their body, right? So it depends on how effective is your workout. So how many of you fell into that trap of myth number 3, where you feel like, oh, I have to get it done in a shorter time. Otherwise, if it's too long, I'm not doing a good job. Or the other way, where you think, if I spend longer at the gym, then I'm doing a better job. So either way, you're actually kind of falling into that myth. It's really whatever your program requires you to do to get the results that you want. Okay, so put it below if any of you guys have fallen into that specific trap or that myth. All right, number 4. So this is, if you don't sweat like a pig or feel intense pain or DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS, right? Like where you're sore after, you didn't work hard enough. Now, this one is actually quite common. A lot of people feel like, you have to sweat, you have to have a lot of pain, all of this, and you have to feel sore all the time. And so I'm going to address the sweating part first. So first of all, sweating is partially a genetic thing, first of all. So some people just sweat more, some people sweat less. So some people just genetically sweat more, right? And it just depends on their metabolism, their body regulation, temperature. And some people are, if they're kind of bigger, larger in size, the body has to work harder to regulate their system. So how much someone sweats or doesn't sweat is not that telling of like, is your workout good or not. You could be also working out in a very hot place, the temperature, or a very cold place. So it all depends on that. So you don't have to sweat to be like, I had a really effective workout, right? Now, the next thing is DOMS, right? Delayed onset muscle soreness. So delayed onset muscle soreness there's a few reasons for it. The first reason is if you did muscle tear, like you tore your muscles, then that kind of soreness from that rebuilding process and the realigning of the fibers is partial of the soreness. But it isn't just that. I mean, that's partial of it. But in terms of the delayed onset muscle soreness, the second reason why that happens actually is whenever you might notice it, whenever you do a new exercise or a new routine or something totally different you've never done before, you're usually the most sore afterwards, a day afterwards or 2 days after. So there's actually a neurological basis to that as well. Like your body also is like an adaptation machine. So it knows you've done something it never has done before, and it's trying to adapt and doesn't like it. So it wants to kind of give you a pain signal to potentially prevent you from going back to that in a survival mechanism. Although once we know it's safe, you go back to it. But as a neurological basis as well, that's why whenever you do something new, you'll be like, why am I so sore? I thought I was fit. Even like me or Shone, if we put us into a new thing, she'll be sore, I'll be sore. Just anything new, our neurological systems will tell us we're really sore as well, outside of maybe some muscle tear as well. And the third reason is, in terms of DOMS, there is again a genetic basis. Some people have a higher DOMS response, some people have a lower. It's kind of related to pain tolerance. So for some people, their body's not that sore. It's like just not that sore. Some people are like, oh my gosh, they do everything and everything is just painful and so sore, right? That's kind of a little bit of a genetic basis, and apparently there's some genetics of how many like pain fibers you have and so on and so forth. So DOMS has a lot of different reasons. So why I'm explaining this to you is because DOMS doesn't always mean that you have done like an amazing job, and it doesn't always mean that you're going to have muscle growth. So this is quite important. So it doesn't mean just because you're sore, like you've done a great job and you're going to grow muscle. It could be like you have done some muscle tear, but the DOMS is because of a lot of different reasons in there. And certainly if you actually go and talk to trained athletes, or even myself, like it takes a lot more to get myself sore, right? I've been training for so long, for so many years. There's so many things I'm used to stimulus wise, so if I stop being as sore, doesn't mean my muscle growth has stopped. So therefore, it's very important to know it's not about like soreness. If you're not sore, you're not growing muscle. That's not true. You could not be sore and still be growing muscle. If you're sore, that's good. You might still be growing muscle because you may be tore some of the muscle. That's good. But remember, there's a few bases of your DOMS, right? So if you have a few bases of your DOMS, maybe you have torn the muscle in both situations as a beginner and as an experienced lifter. So there's that. But the beginner has a higher level of DOMS because they have a neurological response. Their pain receptors, genetically speaking, maybe as like, I've never felt these things before. So it's like more intense. Whereas here, you might feel a little bit of soreness as an experienced lifter. Not super sore, but you still tore muscle. But the DOMS did not come at such an intense rate, but yet you are still building muscle. So hopefully that makes sense. So DOMS is actually more of a indicator rather than a dictator of your results. It's an indicator of something's happening in your body, it adapting to a new exercise, but it's not a dictator of your results. Okay, so keep that in mind. Awesome. So put it below if you feel like you have to feel DOMS in order to grow those muscles. I'm actually interested to know if people fall into this trap or not. There's a line between you do have to push hard, but you're not pushing so hard that you're like spiking your cortisol to like nth degree, and then you can't like walk for 4 days. That's not good either, right? There's kind of this line of, again, it's a RP, rate of perceived exertion, of about 8 or 9 is good. 8 is pretty good for most people. So number 5, lifting weights makes you bulky. And I did a live on this only maybe 5 or 10 lives ago, but I still want to address it because it's still a comment I get a lot, and I find it really funny because so many women are so afraid to get bulky, and the first thing they'll say is like, I want to build muscle, but I don't want to be bulky. That's often the next phrase that comes after, and I'm like, you're not going to get bulky. Trust me, you're not going to get bulky. Okay, like, let's address this. So you have 10 times less testosterone than a guy. Testosterone is the prime hormone that builds muscle and size into someone's body. So as women, it is impossible to get massive and huge muscles, okay? And in order to build really great muscle, it takes extreme amounts of proper training, proper technique, right nutrition, right macros, proper progressive overload, and years of training to really build the density and shape of the muscle really full out, in terms of if you are thinking that visual in your mind. And so it's really hard to gain a lot of muscle. It's really hard. And most of the competitors that maybe sometimes some people think of the really bulky kind, those are most likely on something, on what we will call gear. You know, I hear it at the gyms all the time. I'm like, what's gear? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm a natural athlete, you know, but I learned that that's the term. They're on gear, right? Is when they're on drug enhancing things. And so if you are a natural person that eats whole foods and just goes lift, then you're going to look awesome. You're going to look lean, fit, sexy, and just a great body. Honestly, like, you don't even need to worry about that at all. I read this, it was hilarious. It said the chances of you looking like Mrs. Hulk is almost like seeing Bigfoot sitting in Central Park with a beer. And I was like, that's hilarious, right? I'm like, well, like, will you ever see Bigfoot drinking a beer in Central Park? You know? So yeah, the likelihood of you becoming bulky is very unlikely. Also, there's an additional thing you have to think about. Building muscle is one thing. Maintaining muscle is an entirely different thing. It's very, very hard to maintain a lot of muscle mass. For women, again, we don't really have the testosterone to be able to like get so big and maintain so much muscle. In fact, what women have to worry more about is losing muscle. We lose muscle faster than men, unfortunately. Yeah, you work so hard. Well, so here's the thing. Men has high testosterone, so they can build muscle faster than women, and they can maintain longer than women. So you're like, darn it, you know? But we have our advantages too, you know? So you actually might be more concerned about how can you keep your muscle. So don't worry about becoming like the Hulk, or you're gonna become bulky, or all of this type of stuff. If you work hard, you're a natural athlete, you eat well, whole foods, and you lift well and progressively, you're just gonna have this amazing physique. You really don't have to worry so much about that. And if you ever did find yourself, you know, getting bigger in certain areas, as a woman, it's actually much faster to lose your muscle. You can always lean it out. You can always like work it less, and your muscle will actually start to decrease there, because it takes a lot of work to like maintain a high level of muscle in your body. So if ever you've reached a point where you're like, wow, I love the total physique, maybe my legs are bigger than where I wanted to, you could actually lean it down. It's easy to lean it down once you built it and you don't need it, because it's easier to lose muscle for women. That's what I wanted to say. So put below again, for the ones who are listening, how many of you feel like
you have trouble, like, I guess it kind of relates to this topic. I guess it's more from the other standpoint. How many of you feel like you have trouble gaining muscle? Like, you're not afraid of getting too bulky, but you actually have trouble gaining muscles. And if you actually feel like you have trouble gaining muscles, I want you to put muscles below if you feel like you want more guidance on that, because that's actually the more common problem. It's actually not women getting too bulky. It's I have trouble gaining muscle. That's the much harder premise of it all. So if you're like, I need help gaining or guidance on gaining muscle, put muscle below. All right, the next one, again, I also did a live on this, but I will touch on it because not everybody catches all my lives. So this statement is, this number 6, you can target a certain area of your body. So this statement is a half truth, right? You can target a certain area of your body. It's a half truth. So the half truth is this. Depends what you mean by targeting the area. So if you're like, I want to decrease the fat around my arms. I want to have more of a, just no bat wings. That's often what I get, right? Well, for that answer, for fat percentage, fat loss cannot be spot reduced, right? I did a live on this. You cannot lose fat from a certain area. And that comes down to the biology of fat oxidation in your body. Your body releases fat molecules, fatty acids, out of your system, out of your cells, across your entire body. So therefore, it doesn't matter if you're like sitting there pumping your tricep, like, I want this bat wing to go. It doesn't matter. Your body will release fatty acids all across your body. And that's why true fat loss is actually more incremental and all around your body. So all my ladies in FFF, all the muscle accelerators, transformation clients, particularly muscle accelerators, because muscle accelerators, you are past the phase of the inflammation, de-bloating, visceral fat dropping, and you guys are really down to the nail of like building muscle. You guys, that leaning out process is so gradual, right? When you're leaning out the last bit, it's so gradual. It's so everything around you. It's like 0.2, 0.1. It's all around, but you're still losing little all the way through, is because that's how fat drops across your body in like a layer. So literally when you see like some of my transformation pictures or people, or like from before and after, it's like they lost a size off of them, is because the layer came off of them entirely, right? So you can't spot reduce fat, but you can spot train an area, because you can spot train a tricep, let's just say, to make it more toned, to build more fiber there, so that your muscle is tighter and more firm looking. So yes, you can make an area look tighter and more firm. However, if you have fat covering that, you might not see it. You might feel like, I'm working so hard, nothing is happening, because the fat is covering it. So the answer to that is you have to reduce overall fat and work on the specific areas of the muscle. Then you will truly see the muscle base and tone. So there is a further caveat to this though. So you can't spot fat reduce. You can spot train an area. And then I have one more thing right here I want everyone to listen to. The truth though is you shouldn't just spot train an area. You can work as part of it, but the overall part of your body is a system of levers and ball and socket, and it all works in its entirety. And you have push-pull muscles. When you do chest, believe it or not, yeah, that's your chest muscle, but your back muscle is working too. Your tricep muscle is working too. Your shoulder muscles are working as well. So if we can understand looking at the body as a totality, we want to make sure we don't fall into the trap of just spot training and neglecting the total system of our body. We want to make sure we are truly training your entire system, and that's why proper programming is very important. I'm going to give you an example, as I see this a lot in the gyms. A lot of young girls want to build their booty. I get it, and I know a lot of my clients have the CBL, the Clarice butt lift effect, which is amazing. But in your program, in your total program, you work everything. But I see sometimes girls going to the gym and they would just work glutes. And they're like, I just like glutes and abs, glutes and abs, glutes and abs, glutes and abs, right? And sure, they may get a little bit more muscle in the booty and all of that, but it's actually very unhealthy for their bodies. It's actually very unhealthy because by producing extra strength in an area and neglecting the other areas of your body, you are going to create inherently weaknesses in your body, and this leads to potential future injuries. And your totality of your body is better functioned when everything is strong. Everything is strong and working together. So one of my examples is like when you're working your quads. When you're working your quads, you are also actually moving your hamstrings in the back, right? Your quads and your hamstrings work together, but actually your quad and your hamstrings are attached to your hip. So your glute needs to be working as well, along with your core, abs, and your low back. So you actually have to work all of it together, or this is prime for injury. And as well, you're actually going to be less strong and less muscle developed overall, because you're actually going to be building more muscle when you actually are overall stronger. You can do more things. So one of the things I would say is focus less on like it has to be this one area, or I have to like really spot, kind of laser focus on a certain area of your body. And I want you guys to think more about, do I have a good program that balances it all? Okay, so if you are listening to this, and I know there's a lot there in my FFF or muscle accelerator or like transformation program, but if you are like just hearing this and you feel like you don't really have an overall balanced program, I want you to put better program below, and we will reach out to you. But one of the things with the programming and why I bring this up is I'm going to give an example of what I usually don't like seeing. I see a lot of people in the gyms. It's okay if that's you, but that's why you're on this live, to learn. On those circuits, on those machines, and they go across the circuits on all those machines. And what are all those machines doing? All those machines are isolating your muscle in one segment. And you wonder why you don't look more fit and toned overall. Because you segmented your entire program. You sit here, do a bicep, sit here, do a tricep, sit here, do a shoulder, sit here, do a, and you're not actually making your body work in total function. Total function is very important to your actual total muscle growth. Like the FF Lady Transformation Muscle Accelerators, you guys are using what? Dumbbells. You guys have to do squats. You guys have to do deadlifts. You guys have to do your burpees. You guys have to do your crab kicks. I know you guys love me for my crab kicks. You guys have to do total body work, but with isolation factors in it. That is how you are going to get more toned and defined. And a lot of people, if they don't know any better, they go to a gym, pay for a gym membership, and they sit there doing these circuits that are all purely isolation exercises, and they're not the greatest for you. I'll be honest. They can be good for you if you've been injured, which I understand. If you've been injured, if I'm injured, I'm grateful I have that machine. If you're not injured, you better be working your total body much more, right? Awesome. So myth number 7. All right, I talked a lot about this, but here we go. This myth says, eat more protein and exclude fat and carbs. And those who are, again, follow me for a while or who are in my programs, you already know the answer to this, but I guess I want to share this because I was also a culprit of this when I was in my 20s. As a dancer, I was always so afraid of carbs. I was like so afraid, looked at every label, like what had fat in it, what had carbs in it, and I try to avoid fat and carbs because I feel like that carbs and fat will make you fat. So what people tend to then wrongly focus on is I need more protein. And so why I talk about this is because it's, again, a half truth. This is why I talk so much. Context is really important. So let's talk about it. Is protein important? Well, yeah, it's important. Protein is the building block of your body. It's the bricks. So if you don't have bricks, you don't build your body. So it is very important. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize when they like overemphasize protein is who is building your bricks. Right? You need the workers, as I've said before in my macro lives. You need the workers who are your carbs to build the bricks. You need your builders. And then as well, once you build your house, if there's no electricity running through it or heating system or whatever, then it's going to be not really great. It's not going to be functioning really well. So your carbs and your fat are also just as important as your protein. And why I bring this up is, ready for this? And I want to make sure everyone hears this. If you eat too much protein, you will gain fat. Ready for that? So don't overemphasize on protein. You need protein, and everyone that trains with me knows I do believe in a higher protein amount, but it's not so much. Sometimes when people start to come to me and I check their food logs, they are like so high in protein, like way up there with their protein shakes and their protein bars and all of this stuff, and they're so imbalanced in their macros, and they wonder why they actually still have a belly and they can't lose their weight, they're stalled out, all of this type of stuff. And it's just, protein is important, but if you have too much of it, you still gain fat. So you want to be very careful that yes, you need protein, but not overly, making sure you understand what you need in the balance of your protein, carbs, and fat. Otherwise, you'll just have a lot of bricks sitting there, and the bricks, like what happens when there's lots of bricks there? They all just pile over and fall over, right? So think about fat that's spilling over, right? So what I was going to say is you need proper macro combination. That is more important than overly focusing on protein. And macros are highly customized numbers when done right. So the biggest thing for me is if you're confused like about macros, you're normal like everybody else. It's not supposed to be something easy that people understand. The ones who are now in FF learning it, there's a bit of a process to teach you and to help you understand the weights of food, the weight of this, and is it cooked, is it dry, do you do this, do you do that, like all of these things, and then how you calculate it. It's like a math game in itself, right? So if you are confused, just know it's normal. But if you want to truly understand macros, you do need to learn it, and you need right guidance and coaching. Because I've seen, and even right now in the private group, people posting your videos, it's great, but I catch how people are still doing it incorrectly after we've coached them to do it. And that's showing me it's actually really hard to grasp the accuracy of macros. So the craziest thing is, if you think you know macros, what if, I'm going to challenge you, what if you're doing your macros wrong? And you have to remember, what if you actually don't understand macros, but you think you know macros and you're doing it wrong the whole time? Now, what I will say is, if you are getting results and it's awesome, great. But if you are doing macros by yourself and you are not getting results, you need to get coaching, because there is a formula behind it, and there's a lot of specifics you have to look at in order to do it properly, like the nuances and like the weights of food and different things like that you have to really like dial it in, right? So, all right, number 8. So detoxing and going on juice cleanses is a great way to lose weight. So the problem with this is that, like, a lot of people, they feel like if they, drink and juice and stuff, they're so healthy. So a lot of people feel like they're healthy because they're juicing and they have vegetables and fruit and all of this, and they feel like, yes. And maybe you might even feel better because maybe you're getting lots of like vitamins and antioxidants and all of that. But I have a couple things that I really, it's a myth in terms of it helping you lose weight. And more from a perspective of like, it's not a permanent weight loss solution. It's just a temporary, because you're just bringing down water weight. But there's a couple of things I really want somebody to understand is, when you're juicing, you are inputting a lot of sugar in your system. I don't care if it's fruit is high sugar. You put a lot of fruit, and even vegetables have a little bit of sugar, and you add them all together, you're actually spiking your sugar level in your system like crazy, and you will maybe lose weight. I've heard of a 7-day juice cleanse, or a friend of mine was doing this, like bought all these juices across 7 days. And I was just thinking the amount of sugar that was entering her body. But it deceptively makes you think you lose weight, because when you don't eat solid foods and you're just juicing, your body doesn't have the capacity to absorb or maintain water, because food absorbs water, correct? So you're actually tricking your body to bring down the water weight. So you're like, yeah, I went on juice cleanse and I lost 5 pounds. Yahoo, that's good. But you're actually just temporary, right? Because as soon as you eat solid food again, it's coming back. Your food will absorb water because it does. Carbs absorb more water, right? And the other thing I have a concern about is if you actually are going juicing for a week and all these vegetables and whatnot and fruit, you're not having a macro balanced meal unless you have a good coach or someone who's coaching you on a formula or something like that. You're not having a macro balanced meal. So what do you think starts losing as well in that week when you're juicing? You're potentially losing muscle. You're potentially losing your muscle mass in it because it's so hard for women to gain muscle. I cannot tell you. You have to work so hard to gain muscle, so hard to maintain muscle. And if you just go on juices or cleanses, you're putting yourself at risk of losing more muscle and losing water weight so you feel good, but it's just temporary, right? So you want to make sure that you understand that you shouldn't be, you can do like a quick cleanse a day or 2 days, but you shouldn't be completely going off of solid foods and just doing these crazy juices because it's not actually healthy for you. If you guys think about my anti-bloat challenge, notice you still had solid food throughout the anti-bloat challenge. It's a gentle detox, but it doesn't actually take you out of the system of having actual food in your system, right? So, just be careful about like drinking your calories. And like if you had a good detox tea along with healthy meals in the day, that's fine, right? But it's just what I'm saying is I'm talking about the ones who are actually juicing, like they're doing this 7-day cleanse and they're all just drinking all these juices, all these vitamins. Like certainly they're like sometimes they say, well, you're gonna get so many vitamins in your system, all of that. But what they're not saying is you have so much sugar entering your system. And the other part that I am concerned about when people drink so much of their calories is your insulin level. Because the speed of entry of all of that sugar going in your system spikes your insulin like crazy. And if you didn't know, if you constantly spike your insulin up and down, what's going to happen? Somewhere along the way, your insulin will start to stop working. And if your insulin stops working, this is where we lead to prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. And so you don't want to put your body into this like spike up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down all the time. That actually causes your insulin to potentially become faulty in working, and also your energy level will have a lot of crashes. So you'll actually find yourself being more tired, more lethargic because you're constantly going up and down all the time. And you might have the temporary energy of the juice, of the sugar, of the vegetable, but you don't actually have sustained energy, and actually you feel potentially worse. You might feel like you're lighter because you're losing water weight off of you, but you definitely don't want to be doing this like long term, like 7 days. Or a lot of people when they're trying to lose weight, they go strictly on shakes. How many of you have done that before? I've heard this too. People are going strictly on shakes. They're like, if I go on shakes, it's gonna I'm gonna lose weight because it calorie controls, your portion controls. But that's still a problem because if you're constantly drinking everything, your body and digestive system does not have a chance to work, and it doesn't have a chance to like have thermogenesis in your system, and your metabolism drops, right? Your metabolism will, and it's not going to shut down. I mean, like your metabolism is always there. Your metabolism is just going to slow down, right? Because why? Well, you're not making it work. You're just giving it liquid all the time. You're not making it work. It needs to work. Your digestive system is there for a purpose. So again, I speak strongly about this. I'm not a fan of a lot of people who do all these shakes, all these juices. If you had a one-off juice, like don't get me wrong, you're traveling, like I don't have time. Clarice said I can't have a shake. No, have the shake, drink it. It's fine if it's a one-off. What I'm addressing is people who say, I drink 2 shakes a day. I need this many servings of shakes in a week. And I'm like, how come you need so many servings of shakes? You don't need so many servings of shakes. You need actual food. Can I get a hallelujah for that? You need actual food. You need actual food in your system, right? So And and they don't have fiber, Tabby. You're so right. Exactly. So Kimberly, this is great. I'm glad that you're learning. And I just speak this because I know so many people fall trapped to these myths, so that people actually know how to take better care of their body, right? Amen, Katrina. Awesome. I love it. So put below, like, do you feel like you need a better understanding of like nutrition and food? Because if you're drinking a lot of this, maybe you need more help with nutrition. If you put above that you need help already, you don't need to put it again. If you're just watching, jumping in here, you can put like nutrition, like I need to understand better because I'm the person that drinks a lot of shakes, which is okay. A lot of my clients, whether it's FFF or transformation or muscle accelerators, they all started there. A lot of them had been drinking tons and tons of shakes before they came to see me, and it's okay to have done that, but it's also important that if you know different, then you have a responsibility to change. If you know different, then you have a responsibility to change, to do better for yourself, right? So number 9, it's better I work out on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. Now, how many of you have kind of been there? Now, I know this is very true because even my own clients, I've had to have conversation about this before. So it's better to work out on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. Now, the reasoning behind this is, I guess there's this theory. It's not necessarily wrong. Again, it's not so black and white. So the theory behind it is you've been sleeping all day or sleeping all night, and when you are going to work out, you don't have as much glucose or glycogen stores to use, so therefore your body will tap your fat storage. And that's why a lot of people want to do that, because they want to actually have a faster fat loss, right? So it's only a half truth in that there is some legitimacy to it. Like if you don't have as much glycogen stores in your system, it's going to tap other sources. But I want you guys to listen carefully to this. It's only a half truth because it actually has more to do with your entire nutritional profile of the individual, of how you ate the night before and how you eat, generally speaking, like how do you eat, your nutritional profile. So I'm going to give you an example so you understand this. If the night before you avoid carbs, you're carb phobic, you don't eat, then at night, those nighttime cravings come and you start kind of eating a little bit more carbs kind of at the end of the night. And then you're like, but you know what, in the morning, I'm going to do fasted cardio. And then you go in the morning to go work out. Well, no, you just ate carbs like the night before and it's in your system still. Like it didn't matter. It's just what you put in your system. The other thing though, is if your entire nutritional profile is off, you don't get enough protein in your system, and you're actually protein deficient, which happens a lot for a lot of women, and you go work out in the morning with no food in your system, what do you think might be happening to your body? More than likely, yeah, it can burn some fat, but did you know your body's preference is carbs, protein, and fat? Oh, so that means if you are not eating your breakfast in the morning or not eating before you go work out, you potentially could be risking burning off muscle mass in your body. And it's hard enough for women, and as you age, it gets even harder. So be very careful about like, oh, I'm not going to eat to go work out because I'm going to get more gains. You're actually taking away your gains. Make sense? It actually has more to do with your entire nutritional profile. Now, is there some truth to that? There could be some truth because yes, competitors sometimes utilize that technique, but that has to do with that they actually already have the right nutritional profiling and sometimes how they're splitting their nutrients. So there's a little bit more complexity to it. So that's why I say to people, and my coach said this to me very early on, my first fitness coach. It's like, no, I want you to eat. Why won't you not eat? You want to burn off all your muscles? I remember like, oh, okay. Because I was like asking him about, yeah, should I like not eat to go work out in the morning? And so I'm just saying this, hey, I've fallen into this before too, okay? And he was like, no, you want to burn off all your muscles? I'm like, no, and once I understood more nutrition knowledge, I started understanding, okay, a lot of people, when they talk about these things, they just do not give you context. They don't give you context of what was the competitor asked to do. Maybe some competitors are I know it sounds crazy, but some competitors at a certain point in their stage of prepping, they may have to get up in the middle of the night to eat a meal because of how much they're trying to pack on that muscle. What you may not understand is there is a lot of context to what the people say, and then we kind of take it black and white, right? So remember, it's not about starving yourself or don't eat to go work out. It's is your entire day of nutrition enough to fulfill your macro needs of protein, carbs, and fat. So hopefully that makes sense to all of you. And again, like, you know, for some of you, if you're like in the morning, like I can't work out, like if I have something in my stomach, I don't feel well. And I would just say, like, nobody's saying you have to eat like a massive meal, but you should eat something before you go train, especially if your goal is a little bit more on muscle building. You really want to make sure you emphasize the meals. So again, this specific myth has to do with your understanding of total nutritional profiling. So again, if you've already commented above for help, we will reach out to you. If you're just joining, you're like, I need more help on nutrition, because I didn't understand that it's so important that your total nutritional profile is the dictator of everything. Like all this timing stuff, to be honest, it matters a little bit, but it's so little compared to your totality of your total macros and the totality of what you input into your body, right? So put nutrition below if you need more guidance on nutrition and you haven't put it above yet, okay? Okay, last one. So the last myth here is, if my numbers are not going down, then I'm not losing weight. How many of you have been there? If your numbers are not going down, then you're not losing weight. Then you feel like, I don't know, I feel kind of defeated or deflated. And even my own clients, we've had conversations about it, where like from one week to the next, they lost 0.6 pounds or, you know, not a lot of pounds. And that if we just focus on pounds, they would be so disappointed. But as all of my clients know, and I've spoken about in my other lives, is if you only look at weight, that is so inaccurate. If you only focus on weight, it's so inaccurate, because here's the thing with weight. Weight is really inaccurate due to where water sits and how much water you drank, how much food you ate, what types of food you ate. Did you have a higher carb ratio to meat and fat ratio? When did you work out? When did you do your weigh-in? Did you go to the bathroom yet? Is it your hormones, like time of the month? You know, so there's so many factors affecting weight. And that's why weight is a very inaccurate measure. And my clients in my program know this, so I always utilize other metrics. You want to actually utilize measurements, actual measurements, and pictures, because those are actually going to tell you way more of what's actually happening in your body than weight. So a great example is obviously the FFF ladies who I had all your results above when I wanted to do the wins, but who, like, sometimes some of your weights were dropping maybe like 3 pounds or 4 pounds, like in totality, but your metrics were like 19 inches off or 22 inches off. And that's kind of the reason is actually the poundage doesn't say a whole lot, and muscle can weigh more, you know, all of that. And so it's really important that you make sure, if you're doing this whole I need to lose weight, gain muscle, that you are having a system of tracking. You are using photos, metrics, multiple ways of measuring, and not just focusing on weight. Because if you ever have gotten on a weight scale and felt like deflated or like, oh, nothing is going, I'm only losing 0.5 pounds, that's going to really throw you off, you know, and you're going to feel defeated when really probably a lot more is happening. So just wanted to make sure that people understand that you have to measure a lot more than just weight. But I want to add one more thing here. And this last point is related to losing weight, or sort of your calories and macros. Whatever your app tells you, like whatever app you're using, your total calorie count or whatever, it is general and is not fully accurate. Okay, I want you guys to make sure you guys know it's not necessarily a myth, but sort of a myth, in the sense of like, oh, I have my calories from my app, or I have my macros, my app calculates my macros for me. And the reason I want to bring this up is what I said to Heather earlier, is your app doesn't actually calculate your lifestyle and your daily cortisol level and what's going on in your cortisol. Are you a shift worker? Are you a young mom or are you a grandma? What does your lifestyle look like? It can calculate some baseline things, but it does not take into account all these other things that actually affect what your total caloric and your total macro assignment should be. So this is something I want everyone to keep in mind, that be careful about just app generated macros and app generated caloric counts, because if that was the case, it's like then right straight across the board, all the FF ladies should have this, whatever their app gave them. But why they don't have that is because as they know, they did not get their macro assignment until week four, because I actually watched what Beate, me, and particularly myself, I watched to see what they were doing. I watched the way they would work out, They didn't know, but I get to see the videos of all of them working out and everything. How do they work out? Are they already very experienced with lifting and they can push really hard in their workouts and all of that? So for me, I actually had to observe for a while to figure out what is the actual right assignment for them. So the biggest thing to keep in mind is, if you're not getting results, then maybe you need to actually reconsider redialing those macros or those calories, or get professional guidance on that. And also one more thing is, when you are calculating how much cardio you're doing, let's just say you do 20 minutes of the treadmill, and then the machine spits out that you've burned this much calories, that's actually also inaccurate. I know you're like, what? So it's an inaccurate generality. Let's just say that, an inaccurate generality. So when it says you actually burn this much calories, it actually did not take into account maybe your not just your body size and height, because I know some of them do take into account, but again, your actual existing metabolism. Have you dieted a lot before and all that? So that also, when you are some of these apps, they'll say this is how much you're assigned, and then minus 300 calories for doing the workout, etc., etc. That actually sometimes is inaccurate, just so you know. I know Lynn, if you're still on here, you might have gone to bed. I know when she first met me, she was eating, her app was telling her she needs to be up at 1,900 or 2,000 calories. And I was like, Lynn, how did you get this? And Lynn, obviously, she's done amazing, but she had a huge belly, a huge visceral belly fat. And she's like, oh, because the app calculated I'm doing this activity, so minus 100 calories here, minus 200 calories here. And I was like, you are not at 1,900 calorie, girl. And so anyways, we got her on the right calories and macros. So that's kind of the last point I want to make is, if you are getting results, awesome, keep going. If you're not getting results and you're using some sort of app to give you calories or macros, they're not fully accurate, and you have to know that. It's not necessarily a myth, but kind of a myth, because it's a belief you believe. So I want to make sure that you kind of bust that myth and it's actually not fully accurate to what you actually need. So again, if you want better systems of tracking or accountability, and you feel like you just need more guidance, and again, if you haven't put it above, then just put guidance below, and again, we will reach out to you. Okay, I know I went over time, but I did start later because of my situation with my computer, and 10 myths is a lot to cover. So hopefully this added a lot of value. Hopefully there were some mind-blowing moments for you, to gain some clarity around some of these fitness myths. I appreciate all of you. Hopefully that was helpful, and sending you all lots of love.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fierce and Fit Mentor podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the follow button on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, or wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If something in this episode resonated with you, please leave a review or share it with a friend who'd love it too. Your support means the world and helps us reach more amazing women like you. Until next time, stay fierce, stay fit, and let's keep building your most powerful self.